You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to One on One, the KC Sports Network podcast. I am your co-host, Mike DeVito, here as always with 9-year NFL veteran and Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champion, Jeff Allen. And we are here to bring you all things Chiefs football from a player's perspective. Big Jeff, what's up, brother? How we doing today, man? Playoffs, right?
Man, playoffs are here. We got the first round bye, number one seed. Can't ask for much more. I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be recording again. We did record last week. We'll get into that and why we didn't release that episode. But it's good to bring something back for the people.
Yeah, no, this is great. Let's jump right into that because that's sort of an important topic, and we'll talk about that first. And that's the stuff with Damar Hamlin. Obviously, great news coming out of Buffalo. He has been discharged from the hospital. I believe he's back in Buffalo.
Yeah, he's actually going back to Buffalo. He's going to remain in the hospital, but I don't think he's in critical care anymore, which is really awesome. He's on the right track. He's doing a lot of things on his own. It's remarkable. He got sent home today. Our producer just put in the chat. So that is unbelievable. One of my good friends is actually his agent. So I was able to kind of get some more inside information, and it really eased some of my anxiety. I was really worried about him. I was constantly praying, me and my entire family, as the entire country and world. So it was awesome to see that recovery.
It really highlighted first the NFL brotherhood, right? Because you saw everybody. I mean, that hit everybody like he was a best friend when we see him go down. And so it showed how tight the NFL brotherhood is. But then just sort of everybody. I mean, I remember, I think, the Cincinnati, they had a video of the Cincinnati stadium, right? And the Bills fans and Cincinnati fans, when this had all gone down, they're praying together. And you could just tell everybody slowly rallying behind Damar.
It just shows you just how we can come together in times of need. And I wish it was like that when it isn't tragedy. But it was good to see regardless, and I'm happy. And prayer works. I mean, we saw it, and the doctors did an amazing job. We got to give them credit as well. But God blessed them with those skills and capabilities to be able to save lives, and it was just awesome to see them, come of age and be prepared, and be able to do it in such haste and harsh conditions. Like I couldn't imagine with a life on the line being able to react that quickly.
No, and it's not something that happens ever, right? I mean,
ever.
To be able to react that quickly.
And I'll give you, this is a side story, but this is with my own child. My daughter, when she was young, she was choking, and we didn't know it at the time because she was an infant, and the only thing she was drinking was liquids, milk, and we rushed her to the hospital, and we never once thought to, pat her on the back. Just because we were panicking.
Yeah, you panic.
We were panicking, and like your brain just gets fried. And to be able to react under pressure like that, my daughter is okay. She's 7 years old. She's perfectly fine. Yeah. It was just one of those things where you kind of freak out and you forget what to do in the moment.
Right. Oh, it's incredible. I mean, and you hear that across people dealing with traumatic situations, you think you're going to do one thing, but then when it happens, you that fight flight reaction, you panic. And so, hats off to the way Buffalo staff handled that. Everybody that was on site there that handled that situation. And we're so happy Damar is on the up, and the way he's recovered is nothing short of miraculous. We didn't end up releasing the episode last week. And there were a couple things I wanted to talk about. You brought it up, Jeff. The one thing I wanted to say to start was when we got done recording, there were about 4 or 5 things that I said that could have been taken as either insensitive or just stupid, or that we were going to cut out of the show and not that I was intentionally trying to be that way, but when you're talking about such a difficult subject that doesn't come up ever. I mean, you're never talking about, especially in a football content. Like this isn't a political show or a news station. I mean, this is just sports. To have something like this come up, as even the best sort of analysts and things like that aren't used to dealing with these situations and talking about these things. And so what it came to mind is I know that there are a number of commentators who are commentating live about this stuff via Twitter or on live shows. And they said some things that were probably not the right thing to say, and got blasted for it. And there were two things. One, I thought, geez, if we would have done that show live, I would have been in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just sort of humbled me to the fact that, you know what, maybe there are times when, especially stuff like this, that as much as you get outraged about people's comments, just recognizing it's hard to talk about these things live. It is really hard to talk about these things on the spot, especially a difficult thing like this that doesn't ever come up. And so it just, it sort of humbled me when I looked at those different examples. And we don't have to point them out, but the different examples of people saying things that you're like, whoa, why would you say that? Yeah. But then we went through that episode and I was like, damn, I said some stupid things I just didn't mean to say. And so that helped me, give a little bit more grace. And I thought that was worth bringing up. Another thing, Jeff, that I wanted to talk to you about that I think is worth bringing up as well is, this hot take stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like it was those guys that got the most hell for what they said.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a line you're walking when you're going to be this hot take guy that's going to always have this loud, crazy, off the wall opinion. Is with situations like this come up, if you make a mistake, people are not going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Definitely, right? Skip Bayless. I mean,
right.
When it says that, he is the prime suspect, and that's his take. The entire year. I mean, his entire life. That's his existence. Is hot takes. But in some situations, it's not time for that. And I think he kind of stepped over the line.
Right.
And it was poor timing. He could have tweeted that 2 days later and it had been taken totally different.
Right.
Differently.
Exactly.
It just was the time that he did. It was in the midst of it.
Right.
And all the attention is the reason why we didn't release our episode last week is all the attention needed to be on DeMar.
Right.
Everything needs to be positive and in hopes that he would recover. And at the time, we didn't know. Right. So I didn't think, our producers didn't think, you didn't think that it was right for us to release that until we got good news about DeMar, and we have. So I'm happy for that.
Yeah, no, great point. Yeah, and I guess, again, just going back to, the thing with Skip is he tweeted it, so you have a little less grace for that because you have time to think about what you're saying when you're tweeting. I was thinking about, so I didn't hear exactly what Bart Scott said, but he was live on TV.
Yeah, he insinuated that it was T. Higgins' fault.
Right.
In the way that he said he launched his head, but upon video evidence, he didn't. It was his shoulder that contacted DeMar first in his chest. But regardless, even if it were his helmet, we're not going out there intentionally trying to hurt guys, or
right.
Especially in the way that DeMar was hurt. Like it was a routine play, bang bang, and it happened. It was a freak thing, but I do think that was unfair to. And I don't think he was saying it in that way. It was just in the time he was saying it, he didn't know the correct words to use.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And we can look at it and we can assume whatever we want. But Bart, he's one of us. I mean, he knows what it's like to go out there and strap it up and what we put on the line. And he knows that we aren't out there trying to hurt guys. We are trying, we want to be physical. We want to assert our dominance, but we do not want to hurt guys. That's
right. No. And so the lesson I sort of took away from that, as now trying to be an analyst, trying to be in the media world, was, state my opinions and all of that. But, there are going to be times where I'm going to make a mistake, especially on live TV, doing stuff like that. Yeah. So be careful with the sort of hot take stuff, right? Don't try to reach to get views because, if you're going to be coming all this stuff and pissing people off, when the time comes when you really
not going to get that grace,
you're not going to get that grace. So, I just thought that was an interesting thing. The more I was thinking about it, the more I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to circle back on that. But at the end of the day, the attention should have been on DeMar. That's why we didn't release our episode, like Jeff said. And now things are really on the up and up. But please continue to pray for DeMar and everything going on there. We want to continue to see that trajectory going in the right direction. But really excited for him. So we'll transition now from, that topic into some stuff going on in the NFL. The one thing that before we get into the playoffs and the Chiefs, and another thing that sort of struck me looking at the NFL this week was Houston Texans firing another one and done head coach in Lovie Smith. And, the year before they had our boy Culley down there.
Yeah.
They fire him after the season, bring Lovie Smith in, an established guy, right? I mean, shown he could do it. They fire him after the season. And I I just don't understand the thinking behind, and it seems to me that this is why Houston sucks, because they just, and you've been in there.
I was there.
They have terrible leadership, man.
I had the same coach for the 2 seasons I was there with Bill O'Brien, but upon my departure, and things started to fall apart, especially after they let Bill go. They brought in a new GM. They had the whole situation with, I don't know the guy's name, but they had the guy who was a chaplain in New England who then became like there was just a lot going on there. And then now you see like Cully came in he inherited complete trash. I mean, he didn't have much, and he made the best of it. And nobody expected him to do what he did, but he ended up getting fired after one and done. And then you bring in Lovey, and essentially he's left with the same roster, no quarterback, very little to work with. And although they only won 2 games, I believe, they were competitive.
Right.
And they did the best they could with what they had. So I don't see how they get any decent head coach to come there.
Right.
Based off of the decisions they've made from the ownership level the last 2 years of the coaches they've had, because they're going to inherit the same roster.
Right. And
they're going to look and say, hey, look what you did to these guys. You gave them absolutely no time to build a roster. You didn't give them any leeway to make decisions. And it seems like this was a setup. And what's to say, like, if you don't get the guy you truly want, is it a setup for me?
Well, that's why I wanted to ask you. Do you think that they had a long-term plan?
Yeah, definitely. This was
this
was a holdover, in my opinion. I don't think they ever intended to keep Lovey for a very long time. And no offense to Lovey, I mean, he's a good football coach. I think he's done a great job throughout his career. But as of late, I mean, nothing leaned toward him getting that job when he got it.
Right. Yeah.
There are so many different qualified guys out there, in my opinion, that hadn't gotten that opportunity yet, that deserved it, but Lovey got it. So that's when I knew, like, okay, something's going on.
Yeah.
And there's some good guys out here still, and they gave it to Lovey. And but even with him getting it, I do think he did a good job that year, given the circumstance. So
right. And you know that Houston has to know this, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you want long-term sustained success, you need to give coaches at least 3 to 4 years. I think you have to get the philosophy go. It is really hard. You've been on teams where new coaches come in. It is really hard to get the locker room that you want, to get the guys in there that are going to relay the message, the philosophy, what we're about, and mastering the new playbooks. And it just takes a lot of time. I remember when Rex came to New York, it really wasn't until the second to third year that as a defense, we had really sort of mastered his defensive plan. Right. And so I just feel like that's why I feel Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh, how many head coaches does Pittsburgh have?
I mean, they've had 2 in like the last 30 years or something like that.
I think you ride with them. Unless there's something that's absolutely devastating, I think you ride with the coach and give him at least 3 to 4 years before you say, okay. No. And so I'm with you. So Houston has to know that, because that's an obvious thing.
And maybe there's something internally that we don't know, where they got a guy already. Yeah. There's a guy, a lot of things going behind the scenes in the NFL. There's probably a deal already made that we don't even know about. So
I saw Sean Payton, maybe somebody.
Yeah,
I saw that somewhere.
I don't know. I don't think Sean Payton will inherit that, but who knows what they have in mind? But like you said, I agree. You can't turn around a culture in 1 year.
Right.
You can't change a team's mindset in one season. You got to give a guy a chance, and that's the same for players too. I mean, depending on where you are, depending on where you're drafted, depending on the position, you have to have time to develop, and coaches need development time as well. They got to develop the players, but they also have to develop themselves within that role. So, you guys need time.
Yeah, no question. Well, when we come back, we're going to get into the Chiefs, the game against the Raiders, the wild card weekend, best looking prospects for the Chiefs going into the divisional game. But before that, a quick word from our sponsor.
The NFL playoff picture is locked in, and my go-to place for wild card round action is DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off the road to Super Bowl 57, new customers can bet just $5 and get 200 in free bets instantly. Plus, All new and existing customers can get a no-sweat bet each day of the wildcard round this weekend. Just place any NFL bet of your choice, and if it loses, you'll get a free bet back up to $10. Action's so good, why bet on the NFL playoffs anywhere else? As Chiefs fans, we get to kick our feet up this weekend and watch all this wildcard round action and get to experience the phenomenal app that DraftKings Sportsbook has. And here's what you got to do to get these deals. You got to download that DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code KCSN. New customers can bet just $5 on the NFL and get 200 in free bets instantly only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes for details.
All right, Big Jeff. So we're going into wild card weekend, but before we get to that, let's recap the Raiders game real quick. Obviously, all of our shows on KCSN have gone through that game and dissected it and given you some great analysis. But just real quick, let's talk about it was a great way to finish out the season, right? Because
awesome way.
You go in there and you dominate them and you get everything you need going into the playoffs. All the it was not one of those things like the last thing you'd want to do in that game is go in there and have a dogfight with the Raiders. And even if you just scratch it out and win at the end, you didn't want that to be close with a bad team like that going into the playoffs. So they got it done. They went out there, smoked them. But talk to me, brother. Talk to me about. We were talking about the show, man. You go ahead. Go ahead. You tee it up. What do you want to talk about?
Man, we're talking about the snow globe play. I mean,
the snow globe.
It's what everybody's talking about. I mean, a lot of people loved it, but some guys hated it. I mean, I forget the guy's name, but he's an offensive lineman for the Broncos, rookie.
He was pissed.
He says he's pissed about it. I mean, my high school coach used to always say, if you don't like it, turn the scoreboard off, you know? If you don't like it, turn the scoreboard off. I mean, I like the flair. I mean, that's the personality of this team. They have fun. They collaborate, and they make plays, man. And it was awesome to see Kadarius Toney out there making plays. I mean, the Globetrotter play came back. I mean, I say Globetrotter. That's actually a play as well. But
don't give it away. Don't give it away.
The snow globe play got called back. And the very next play, they run a jet sweep to Kadarius, the same guy that scored the play before, and he scores again. And he made some splash plays. I'm excited to see, after some rest and some treatment, what he looks like in the playoffs after this bye week. So with McCole Hardman coming back, it's going to be exciting. The offense could look way more explosive. There are going to be some wrinkles in there, and I expect for us to put up a lot of points. And the offensive line's rolling. Like it's awesome.
It's a great team to have this bye week. I'm always nervous a little bit about the bye weeks because if you have a younger team that gets it, and then all of a sudden they're put into that playoff fire that we'll talk about, that speed, and you have a team that's played a game in the playoffs, and so they're sort of used to it. And now you're starting a divisional game, and all of a sudden, everything's going 100 miles an hour. Sometimes you see teams get caught off guard. Not this Chiefs. I mean, you got a team that's been so many.
We have a good team. I think just with the way Patrick is playing, he's really put the team on his back. He's still the MVP, best player in football, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see that. But even this is going to be a competitive playoff season. I think I'm just looking at the bracket. I mean, there's some really good teams.
There is.
And I'm talking the parity is, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you got the Chargers versus Jacksonville round one. And you got the Ravens playing the Bengals, which are divisional opponents. They know each other well. It's going to be a competitive game. Same with the Dolphins versus the Bills on the FC side. Divisional opponents playing each other the first round. So that's going to be competitive. So I'm hoping these teams beat each other up because whoever comes out, it's going to be a good matchup. I mean, you could potentially play the Ravens if they beat the Bengals, or the winner between the Chargers and the Jaguars. All very good teams. Very winnable games for us, but they're good football teams.
Yeah. I think of all the teams we could play, I think I'm most nervous about the Chargers.
Yes, it is. I think we'll win the game, but it's very tough to beat a team 3 times in 1 year.
Very tough.
I will say that, especially a divisional opponent that knows you very well.
Right.
And every game we've played the last 3 years have been tight.
Right. No, exactly. That's like the team I'm most worried about. But before we get into that, Big Jeff, talk to me about the bye week. So in 2018, so all the playoffs that I went through, we had to play wild card weekend. And so we'll talk about that next week when we get into what it's like to start off in the playoffs and what that feels like and how the atmosphere changes. We'll talk about that next week. But talk to me about the bye week, because this was something I never got to experience. And on all the teams that I played with that did make the playoffs, where we ended up making the playoffs but not winning the Super Bowl, not even making it to the Super Bowl, one of the keys was, listen, we have to get the bye week.
Yes.
Like whatever we do next year, we have to finish so that we have the bye week. So talk to me about it, brother. You had one 2018. What is it like?
That's a huge advantage. I think more so than the bye week in the season. You're at the very end of the year, and especially now, there's only one team on each side that gets the bye. So you're going to be well rested. You're still going to get work in. You're going to be practicing during the week. Not very strenuous practice, but you're going to be out there moving around, keeping your body in some type of shape. But the real advantage is the coaches are going to be able to get ahead. So they're going to game plan for every potential matchup.
Right.
And they're going to find wrinkles for every single team. And then when they finally get that final opponent, they're going to already have a day in which they could focus on that opponent before that other team could focus on you.
Right.
So they're going to be way ahead. There are going to be some things they're going to be able to do that other teams can't do because of that bye week. And like I said, the other important aspect is the health of the team. There's some guys banged up on every team in the league. With you being the only team with the bye, that's a huge advantage.
Huge
advantage. Especially with some of our key players being banged up. Like I said, McCole Hardman has been banged up. He came off IR, but he's still not full health. Kadarius Toney, he played. He looked very good, but with hamstrings, it's always good to get rest. Always
speed
good.
Guys.
Yeah, so it's great to see that. I mean, Chris Jones has been absolutely dominant.
Right.
But I know he's hurting right now. He's a big physical dude. So for him to get this bye week along with the offensive line and other D linemen, you got Frank Clark dealing with a groin issue.
Right.
He might not have been able to play if we didn't have the bye. Hopefully he's able to play with this bye. So it's a huge advantage, man.
Yeah, no, and without question. And like when I think to my playing career, especially those 2 years that we went to the AFC Championship game, and I spoke about this last year, but I think it's worth bringing it up. The first week, the wild card weekend, you feel great. Second week, divisional weekend, you feel great. That third week, when you're in that AFC Championship game, you are dead.
Yeah.
I'm talking across the board, both years, we were wiped. Especially if you're on the road for 2 weeks, 2 weeks in the playoffs on the road, then you got to go on the road again and play the AFC Championship game. I mean, there was just nothing you could do to heal up. Now, if you look at the way the season played out, all these teams were playing right up till the end, right? There was really nobody resting anybody week 18. And you have the extra game, obviously, of 17 games. So now you have all these teams basically in playoff mode already, trying to win so that they can get to the playoff. Then they got to go wild card. Then whoever comes out in that divisional game is basically where they would be if they were playing in the AFC Championship game. And so you're right. It's a huge advantage for Kansas City to be the one team that has the bye week.
You spoke about it mentally also, like your mind, like obviously everybody goes into it. They're wanting to win a Super Bowl, but to have that weight lifted off of you that there's one less game.
Right.
You only have to win 3 as opposed to 4.
Right.
Like that hill
and 2 to reset. 2 and then you reset.
Yeah, exactly. So that hill isn't that far of a climb as opposed to a team that's playing the week before. And like I said, these are very good teams.
Yeah.
And they have to play each other. They're going to bang themselves up in this
No
matchup,
doubt.
in these matchups. They're not going to come out 100%, and they're going to have to come to Arrowhead. Right. That is not an easy task. So I'm so happy we got that bye in the number 1 seed. We'll see how the playoff goes. We could potentially play in a AFC Championship game in what is it? Probably Pittsburgh or something like that. They didn't say yet, but they're leaning towards Pittsburgh. If Buffalo wins out and we meet in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, so that would be really interesting. So real quick to finish up today, Jeff, looking at the wild card weekend, specifically the AFC, and we look at sort of who Kansas City, the best matchups for Kansas City. You look at these games, you have the Chargers and the Jaguars on Saturday.
Yeah.
And then you have the Dolphins and the Bills and the Ravens and the Bengals. You're not going to play the Bengals or Bills. What's nice is they're going to have to play each other if they both win. Of the Ravens, the Dolphins, or the Chargers, I believe we could play or the Jaguars.
We're going to be playing. We're playing. I mean, Jeff Stradamus is back. It's playoff season. I have to change my handle on Twitter.
Let's do it. Who are we playing?
We're going to play in the Chargers. Chargers are going to beat the Jaguars. The Bengals are going to beat the Ravens. Lamar's not going to play. They might be down to their third string. I don't even know if Huntley's going to play. So I have Joe Burrow winning that one. And they're going to be playing Buffalo after Buffalo beats Miami.
Yeah, because Tua isn't playing either.
Tua
right?
isn't playing either. So I got Buffalo playing the Bengals.
That's beautiful.
He's playing the Chargers. And unfortunately, we're going to be playing the AFC Championship game in Pittsburgh against the Buffalo Bills.
All right.
And I'll give you my predictions when we get to that point because, my juices don't go that far. But once we get to that spot, we're going to be playing Buffalo, and I'll let you know then.
Yeah, baby. Oh, that's great. Well, here we go, Chiefs Kingdom. Finally in the playoffs, real football. Enjoy this weekend, and then we'll come back next week. We're going to have a guest, and we'll talk about the divisional game, whoever the Chiefs are playing. But Jeff said it; they're playing the Chargers, so we'll be ready for that. But thank you for tuning in, Big Jeff. I love you, brother. Everybody out there, Chiefs Kingdom, we appreciate you, and we'll see you next week.